The Sussexes never succeed. They never finish the job. That is clear now. They abandon everything, and then they spin insane narratives to make it seem better than it is. But let's cut through all the nonsense today, or noise, as Meg likes to put it, and take a look at what's really going on with Harry and Meghan and Archewell. Meredith Maines quit, and whoop-bam! Another one bites the dust, like 2 weeks later. This time, a far more devastating blow, though. This one was a lot more serious of a loss for the Sussexes. Their longest employed, James Holt, pretty much the only one left standing with any degree of a permanent job, the only one who ever stood by them. He even supported them in their Netflix fake documentary, that fictitious nonsense. The man clearly just did whatever they told him to do. He lacks a spine, but he had a real sweet salary, over $200,000 per year. It was like almost £300,000 per year, I think, or more. And now it has been revealed that he was literally the sole salaried full-time person left at Archewell. Hello everybody, I'm Beebs Kelly. Welcome back to another video. Before we get started, I would like to invite you to subscribe if you have not yet already. Click the like button and the hype button, but as always, only if you want to. James Holt. This man was doomed from the start. The second he started following the Sussexes overseas and beyond, he got sucked in, and now his career, his reputation are forever tarnished. Who wants to hire someone who was the top employee of people with track records as crappy as Harry and Meghan? Harry and Meghan abandon absolutely everything they touch, including James Holt. Be it for-profit activities like podcasting, the Spotify deal, archetypes, or writing books, or creating content, trying to do shows or fake documentaries, or boring highlight the cause type of content, or business stuff like runny jam and overpriced trash. They quit almost immediately. And certainly after they have failed, fallen flat on their face and been shown the door, sure, yeah, they make a fool of themselves first, but then they quickly quit. Likewise, for nonprofit endeavors, they've developed a track record for abandoning initiatives and projects in this space as well. Remember on Ellen, long time ago, the Meg wore a pirate shirt that looked like Edward Scissorhands was in charge of doing the laundry and declared that she would do everything in her power to get families parental and medical leave. She was going to champion this cause, y'all. Have you heard a word about that since? No, me neither. Or more recently, in October, at the Fortune interview. If you're curious how she landed that spot, check out the video linked up here and at the end of today's video. It's an interesting story. But she claimed to advocate so hard for financial literacy in girls. She always has, she claimed. But we have never heard that before. And we have never seen any work or advocating for financial literacy in girls and women. We've never seen this happening. No. Lies. Her 40 by 40, which was someone else's idea that she completely hijacked, that fizzled out almost immediately. Harry, too. The whole Sent to Bali scandal is a perfect example. Instead of giving it any effort or attention or putting in a little work in times of need, he acted like a petulant child, had a tantrum when he didn't get his way, and quit. Okay? Quitting. Once again, quit. They even they just gave away Parents Network. Remember that? The thing that they started, they did the Jane Pauley interview. That was a mess. That was embarrassing. And then they gave it away. They shuttered it. They closed it down. Directed the parents to Parents Together instead. You know why? Because they're quitters, but also because Parents Network was a dumb idea. It's already something that's established, and it's called Parents Together. They already have it. But what does this show us? It's not just that Harry and Meghan have a well-established pattern of not actually giving a duck and quitting and abandoning things willy-nilly. No, it's not just that. It also shows us the state of Archewell. Incapable of making any real degree of change, stupidly invested in faux royal tours, which not only were mocked, but drained funds at an alarming rate, without actually doing any good or tying it to any specific cause or raising any funds to make the expense worth it. No, it was just a vanity trip for them to pretend that they're still royal, which they are not. It also demonstrates Archewell's, and by proxy Harry and Meghan's, complete inability to accomplish anything. Everything they've said they're going to do gets lost. Everything they've tried to do themselves, like stuff they've tried to launch or start themselves, fails tremendously. It can all be tied back to lack of a proof of concept and biting off more than you can chew, but we're diving deeper into Archewell's failures specifically in an upcoming video, so be sure that you're subscribed so you do not miss it. But when it comes to the staff specifically, this goes beyond Meghan's reputation as a terrible boss and beyond Harry and Meghan being in way over their heads and all of this being for vanity to try to pretend like they can be royal still when they can't. I mean, it goes beyond that. With a charity that isn't raising any money and is overspending by huge margins, how could they keep staff, including James Holt, on? At about $250,000 a year, he was their most expensivest employee. They probably felt obligated since James basically tied his reputation to them forever, and he went on Netflix and made a fool of himself supporting them. He lacks judgment, that's for sure. I have a video on this. I'll link the playlist of what he said in the Netflix documentary. You can't really call it a documentary, but nonetheless. Although the statements of parting ways were very polite towards one another, surely this isn't exactly what James had in mind for his future with Harry and Meghan. He foolishly believed in their vision, I guess. They probably offered him an insulting salary cut for 2026 since they blew way too much money on the fake tours last year, and he said no. Remember, we knew the publicized vacations were a bad idea for so many reasons, but it's clear that it is also probably the biggest factor, biggest mistake in taking down Archewell. It has just completely destroyed them on the back end. From an accounting perspective, they wrecked themselves with those publicized vacations disguised as fake royal tours. They ruined their charity by doing that. Through their ego, because they destroyed their financial ability to continue on and made themselves even worse reputations. The most newsworthy part of the statements that the Sussexes and James put out is that James put his out first, Harry and Meghan reciprocated, and true to form, they added in a complete curveball that was probably news to James. They said that he was still going to be their consultant for overseas trips. Please, no more overseas trips. We don't need them. We don't want them. But basically they're saying, we're still going to ask him to help us. We're just trying to not have to pay him all the time. That's what that sounds like. And there's a rumor that amongst staff who used to work for Harry and Meghan that they always claim to the press that this person is still going to be held on in some capacity as a consultant or on a contract basis, on an as-needed basis. And then they're never seen or heard from again. Probably a combination of things, that people are actually glad that they're out, that they're actually moving on and now they're busy, the Sussexes are no longer their priority, and or that when the Sussexes say they want you to help with something, they don't expect to actually have to pay for it. And it turns out the only other employee with Archewell at the time that James Holt left was Shauna Knepp. But despite having the title of VP, she was actually not even a full-time employee. She was on a contract basis. So she wasn't really the vice president. She was just, I guess, standing in occasionally when they needed something. Like a consultant, which is what they lowered James to, basically. But they're calling it an advisor. It makes no difference. They're not paying him unless they actually make a new arrangement for a single occasion. And remember, just earlier in 2025, in spring, they were we're restructuring. We're going to have more a royal structure. And they outsourced, confusingly, to a communications firm, a publicity firm, so Method Communications. So they were trying to say that they were creating a hierarchical structure for their staff while sort of downgrading by just hiring a company to help handle things. But the whole point was that they were going to streamline things and stop piecing every little job out as a contract basis, because that makes it lack continuity and lack familiarity to where you can really work effectively. When you're constantly doing everything as a one-off job and a one-off scenario where you're hiring someone for just this one tiny task at a time, then you lose out on a lot of potential and you spend a lot more time getting to know how to work with somebody and explaining what you need done, and then there's no continuity in the long term. So they were stepping away from that, but it turns out that they were still having these same exact struggles of having people just on a contract basis, and then now everything is just blown up. It's just all came tumbling down. What this really means, though, is that Archewell has collapsed, like completely collapsed. There are no employees left with Archewell. Just a Rolodex, isn't that what it's called? With some advisors and consultants that are not on the payroll. It's wild. This is a crash and burn moment, and they are working really hard to frame it as not that bad. But it's really bad. And this comes right after Meredith Maines quit. The 11th publicist in what is like 5 or 6 years? That's crazy. Publicists usually have really long relationships with their clients, in part because the job is easier the more you know and like your clients. Because a publicist doesn't just field media relations and help you arrange PR opportunities, they also help you craft your public image. And so they're basically like personal marketing, like marketing you as a person to the public and for future opportunities. Which is why it's so fascinating to watch this train wreck that we've been watching, and why it'll never stop as long as they struggle to match with a publicist. To constantly be having new publicists and turnover in this specific role is part of the problem with Harry and Meghan. That there's been no ability for any of those people who stepped into that role to really sink their teeth in, get to know Harry and Meghan, and maximize the potential. Everything gets cut short. And obviously we know a lot of reasons are probably that Harry and Meghan are far too difficult. Their demands are out of touch, unrealistic. They want all of it at once. They want results super fast, immediately. They're hard to work with. And, the whole mean boss, lack of likability thing, it's not just the public that has a likability issue with Meghan, probably also within a work environment. But a lot of speculation about Meredith specifically connects to the picture drama from the Kris Jenner party, that when Meghan and Harry went to Kris Jenner's birthday party and the pictures were posted, later taken down, that Meredith was frustrated with how Meghan and Harry handled that they went around her, and it created a really big mess, especially with people that were, high-powered Hollywood names, like it or not, the Kardashians are a big deal just because of their experience, their fan base, their social media power, all of those things. So it was a really, really big misstep for Meghan and Harry. But regardless of the straw, the specific straw that broke the camel's back in this case, the pattern is alarming. There is no longer any question here. The Sussexes' expectations are wildly unreasonable. It's also that Harry and Meghan are trying, as we've been saying from the start, to do way too much at once. They want to do all of these things at once. Really successful household name type celebrities who do have multiple revenue streams or various careers, so to speak, like actors who also have a business on the side, and maybe they write a memoir, or maybe they're tied to a charity or an organization. Maybe they do some producing on the side. Maybe eventually they are investors in several companies. But they take years to get there. Take somebody like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He was a wrestler in WWE for a very, very, very long time. And then he did a crossover to acting, and his Terramana alcohol brand and Papa Tui personal care products. He's probably done some investing. He also has like a football thing that he does. He has all these different things, but never did he just try to do them all at once from the start. He also does some charity work or something like that, I believe. Quite a bit. The point is that it takes years to develop a diverse portfolio like that. And usually these types of people launch one thing at a time after a period of establishing themselves initially in just one thing. Whatever thing it is that makes them famous and successful, they stick with for a long time before they start to branch out most of the time. That is the most common path we have seen. And everything from that point on, from that point of establishing themselves in one specific career field and getting true success and wealth from that, everything past that is just growth, diversifying, and longevity. So that then if they retire from this or one thing doesn't work out, they still have these other things going and they don't have to worry about their future, economic situation or financial situation. They have multiple things going. It takes a lot of pressure off. Typically that only happens after somebody is really, really well established in their first initial field. But Harry and Meghan just jumped right into trying to do all these things at once, way too much at once. And because of this, they cannot keep a publicist to save their lives. It's not just that their performance in all the different things they tried, podcasting, writing, content creation, business, philanthropy, just being a public person in general, their performance in all these things was subpar. Made tons of mistakes, lots of failures, nothing's working out, all of it sucks, right? It's not just the outcomes that matter. It's also everybody else who they were trying to get to help them along the way. They were asking a publicist to sell all these careers at once, to sell all these different images at once. That's impossible. The biggest sort of conflict, I think, from a PR perspective, a marketing perspective, would be that they want to be super private, down-to-earth philanthropists, respected in these spaces, hailed as champions of this initiative and that. But they're not taking it that seriously. There's way too many causes at once, none of it is focused, and at the same time, they want to send this contradictory alternative image into the world that is more celebrity and do interviews all the time and make contact and do business and buy awards. These two things are very much butting heads because they're very different public images. And they have the same problems in each of these areas. But what it means in this context is that a publicist cannot effectively craft a cohesive image to market to the public because of the way Harry and Meghan behave and the fact that they want all of this at once. Meredith allegedly focused on Harry's charity work and Meghan's With Love Meghan and podcast that she did earlier this year, those How to Be a Sucky Business Lady. But Harry and Meghan undermined her efforts in every way with all of their own nonsense. Like, the biggest thing we remember from 2025 about Harry and charity is the Scentabali scandal. Huge scandal. Harry was at fault. With Love Meghan and that podcast, horrible. I mean, Meredith might have tried super hard, but it was horrible. And Meghan undermined all the efforts with all of her other mistakes and social media posts and nonsense. They do stuff on the side or behind the back of their publicist, and then they basically spoil all the work and effort that the publicist tried to do and accomplish. Who wants to deal with that or tie their professional reputation to it? No one, especially not someone in PR who understands the power of reputation like Meredith. So now with absolutely zero full-time employees under their belt, huge 180 from what they were saying earlier in the year, in 2025, they're down to none. Starting from scratch, I guess. Do not miss the upcoming video discussing in depth everything that's gone wrong with Archewell and what all these new changes actually mean. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you next time. Have a happy day, everybody. Bye!